This week in the Spooky Coop, episode 38, we talk about the crimes and hauntings of the infamous Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Hi everyone, I'm Paul.
And I'm Michelle.
And you're in
The
Spooky Coop.
Welcome to the Spooky Coop.
Welcome back to the Spooky Coop, everybody. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Paul.
This is the podcast where we explore the eerie, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying. As you know, I'm Paul, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Michelle.
Hi, Paul. Again.
So, fellow thrill seekers, today we're diving into a place that's become synonymous with darkness and mystery.
Oh, us? Our house? Our dogs?
No, the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, that place.
Yeah.
You know, that place right now, I think it's empty, isn't it? Oh, no. Right now it's a place that is low-rent hotels for the hotel rooms for the homeless and low income. And it's still creepy.
And it has a history so grim that it's often referred to as Hotel Death. Since its opening in 1924, it's been the site of numerous suicides, murders, and unexplained deaths.
Yeah, and let's start with some of the most notorious people who've lived there, Paul. You know, in the 1980s, it was the home of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Ooh.
You know that serial killer
Yes.
guy? Yeah. He lived there when he was terrorizing Los Angeles. They believed that he stayed there. He would come in after killing people and raping people and burglaring people, and he would actually walk through the lobby covered in blood and nobody even said anything.
Isn't that the strangest thing? Oh my God.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
Yeah, he was a serial killer, a rapist, a burglar who terrorized California from 1984 to 1985. And while he was committing his brutal crimes, Ramirez reportedly stayed at the hotel using it as a base due to its low rates and seedy reputation.
Yeah.
He targeted his victims at random, breaking into homes and attacking men, women, and children with extreme violence. His methods were unpredictable. He used guns, knives, machetes, and even hammers.
That made him unusual because usually serial killers have a particular method. They use the same one over and over again, which made it harder, I think, for them to find him.
Yeah. Gruesome character.
Yeah.
He also left satanic symbols at crime scenes, heightening public fear.
Giving a bad name to Satanists.
And that too. Or a good name, depending on your perspective, I guess. His killing spree left at least 14 people dead and many more wounded. At the Cecil Hotel, or Cecil Hotel, depending on which part of the country you're from, Ramirez was said to return from his nightly rampages covered in blood, discarding his clothes, like you said, in the dumpster and then walking past people, covered in blood in his underwear, with nobody talking to him or asking him any questions. The hotel's dark past and transient guests allowed him to move unnoticed. Unnoticed? Let me try that again. The hotel's dark past and transient guests allowed him to move unnoticed. His reign of terror ended when a group of citizens recognized him and chased him down in August of 1985, leading to his arrest.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. The police never caught him. It was the people that saw him, and then they were able to catch him. It was really amazing. If you watch that TV show, you can see it.
There was a gathering wave of pedestrians and neighborhood people that gathered and chased him down. He was screaming at them, "Go away, leave me alone," and they kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you know, it was something else because it was just like not... It was like the people caught him, and it was real justice to have people catch him, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, he was convicted of 13 murders, 11 sexual assaults, and multiple other charges, receiving the death penalty, and he died in 2013 while on death row.
Yeah, also there was another Australian serial killer, Jack Underwedge, I think his name was. What was his name?
Underberger. Yeah, he was there for a while. He was from Australia.
Yeah. And there's lots of things. There's people who committed suicide there. I mean, everyone knows the stuff. We don't have to get into it too much. Years and years of people committing suicide there.
Underberger lived there in the 1990s. And he was originally from Australia, and he used his stay as cover to commit more murders targeting women in the surrounding area.
Yeah, a lot of people, since it was like in Skid Row, in that area, a lot of transients in that area died, and it's reported that a lot of them may have been killed by people living in the Cecil Hotel, but no one's really going to know.
Right.
And then there's that really incredibly strange thing, and it's been all over the internet. There are all kinds of theories about it. Some of them supernatural, some of them more crime-based, about... you want to tell us about
Elisa Lam.
Yeah, about Elisa Lam. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, in 2013, she came into the spotlight. Her mysterious... I do have my front teeth. Her mysterious death sparked numerous conspiracy theories due to the bizarre circumstances surrounding her disappearance.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah, she was a 21-year-old Canadian student, last seen in a now infamous elevator surveillance video.
Yeah, she looks really panicked in it, too.
Yes, she does.
And the way she's pressing all the buttons.
And looking in and out. When she appeared to be acting erratically, pressing multiple buttons, stepping in and out of the elevator, and seemingly gesturing to an unseen presence.
Yeah, and some people say that the time stamp at the top goes real fast or changes back and forth. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That could have been affected by people watching it.
One more thing to add to the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Laden ideas on the possible paranormal involvement. Her body was discovered weeks later in a rooftop water tank after hotel guests complained of foul-tasting, discolored water. I'm sorry to chuckle at that. I mean, that's very dark humor. At the time, it was absolutely horrid. But to think that people were drinking water where or bathing in it, the poor thing was wasting away.
They say if you look at it, how did she get up there? Mm-hmm. The door to the ceiling, to the top,
was just way too heavy for her.
Was locked.
Yeah, and locked.
And she would have had to, if she climbed the fire escape, it was really tricky and hard to do. Mm-hmm. If she climbed up onto the water tower, opening the top to the water was incredibly heavy. Mm-hmm. How could she have held it and got in? And why would she have gone swimming with all her clothes, even her shoes on?
Right. Her body was discovered weeks later in the tank, and her official cause of death was ruled accidental drowning.
Yeah, right.
But strange details led to speculation, as you point out. Some believe Lam was murdered, possibly by a hotel employee or an unknown attacker. Others suspect she was under the influence of drugs or experiencing a psychotic episode.
But they didn't find any toxicology as far as bad drugs in her system.
That's right. The toxicology report showed no evidence of significant drug use.
Right. If anything, people say she might have been off her medication, the ones that she had to take.
Right.
But because her roommate said she was acting strange, and they actually asked for another room because she was acting strange. But who knows? I mean, maybe her roommates wanted her in another room because they wanted to do things without her because they were together and she wasn't.
Right, yeah.
There's no way of knowing. There's so many theories on this.
Yet more outlandish theories suggest paranormal involvement, citing the Cecil's dark history, or even a government conspiracy, linking her death to biological warfare testing. As a tuberculosis outbreak occurred near Skid Row around the same time. And this is really bizarre to me. Oddly, with a test name, Lam-Elisa, matching her own name. That is really overly coincidental. That's strange.
Yeah. What's really weird, too, is that tuberculosis is still a relatively common disease in some European countries, but in the United States, they have tuberculosis that breaks out in animals, I believe in the UK, and you do see it in some people in the UK. Of course, tuberculosis is, I think, easily treated, but you don't see it very much in the United States at all.
Not even in jackalopes? Sorry.
But the thing, I think the thing is that all of a sudden people breaking out in tuberculosis.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd, yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit odd.
It reminds you of the MK Ultra deal in New York City. Things like throwing light bulbs filled with disease down into the subways to see how many people got sick.
Or the times that they all of a sudden started in mental hospitals giving people, mental hospitals is not the correct way to say it these days, but giving people certain medications.
Mental health institutions.
There you go. Yeah. Did you know that the one in Worcester at one time was on Fruit Street?
Really?
Yeah.
Was Fruit Street named after or before the building was there? So theories continue to swirl, but there's no definitive answers, making Elisa Lam's case one of the most haunting modern mysteries connected to the Cecil Hotel.
Well, as far as the ghosts go in the Cecil Hotel, I mean, we haven't gone into a lot of detail because mostly we're going to talk about sort of the ghost and things like that. There have been a lot of chilling stories of ghosts seen in the hall, footsteps, overwhelming senses of dread. People, even when they tried to call it, tried to spiff it up and make it a more modern place, people were hearing footsteps, hearing...
staff members reported seeing shadowy figures running through the halls too, right?
Right, and all of a sudden being overwhelmed with this sense of dread or sense of wanting to die, this sense of just having no hope for the future.
This sounds like what we all experience when we go grocery shopping nowadays.
Yeah, no, except that they didn't have a need to buy 5,000 rolls of toilet paper.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Quite right. I stand corrected.
Especially on the upper floors. Especially on the upper floors, people felt this sense of, oh, God, I just want to die.
And there's other strange noises, like you mentioned, like whispers, disembodied footsteps, loud bangs.
Babies crying. And it's just a really spooky place like that.
I've heard one of the most chilling stories involves a phantom woman. She was believed to be the spirit of one of the many suicide victims who leapt from the building. Some of the housekeepers claimed to see a ghostly figure.
A ghostly figure.
If I could just
if
speak,
she's jumping from the building, maybe that's correct.
That's correct. If I could just speak English today, it would be so much easier.
Hey, it's okay. It's the snow. The snow has got everybody off.
Anyway, they claimed to see the ghostly figure standing at a window, only to vanish whenever they approached.
Right, and some people say that they've even seen Elisa, shadow an elevator, or that they'll be in an elevator and the buttons all start to go at one time. They might press a button for their floor, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of buttons will go.
That is very creepy, isn't it?
Right, or the doors open and close for no reason.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, or it'll stop on a floor and open, and that floor button wasn't even pushed, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, some people believe that the proximity to Skid Row and its history of housing transients and those down on the lot contributed to a lot of the dark energy, and that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does, especially if you have a lot of people who are in despair and who are feeling, terrible, horrible feelings, or people who are lost in a not only depression, but in a drug haze or in a haze of alcohol, and they cannot overcome it, not because it's their fault, but because it's an illness, and it makes them very, very dark. It brings a dark energy around the area.
Right. What do you think about this idea that there's a lot of people who believe the building itself is cursed, attracting a lot of negative
that
forces?
Could very well be. That could very well be. It could be also built on an area that for some reason was cursed. There are.
I mean, we've seen here in New England from our work that there's areas where there were dark things that occurred afterwards and hauntings and ghosts because of being cursed by the natives for what had been done to them by the arriving Europeans.
Right, or large battle areas.
Or large battle areas, yes.
Right, and for example, we know some person right now that is a client that we're working with who has a house that was built on an area where a battle hospital was from the...
that has to be just so wonderful.
Yeah.
Those types of ghosts, dear.
And a lot of revolutionary soldiers died there, and they died during right after war, and they had that unconscious idea that they were dying. And
Right, yeah, and which is an interesting part of the phenomena of what happens after death.
right,
If our research and perceptions are true, people who, after they die, will see what they saw just before their death, and oftentimes see it in a repeating cycle.
right. There are a lot of different ways people can haunt. Now, here's a question about the Cecil Hotel area. I had a question about it. Not only the actual hauntings that are there, and this reminded me of the hotel that The Shining was filmed at.
Yes, yes.
The Shining, the hotel where The Shining was filmed at, had some hauntings that were known to be there, just like the Mount Washington Hotel in the White Mountains
Right.
has some ghosts that are known to be there. But as people go there and they believe that they feel ghosts there, and there are just like at the Cecil, there are some areas where people believe they feel a ghost and will say, I know the ghost of this person who did this is here. And it really starts to build. And different people who are sensitive go there and they start to feel that same ghost with that same story there independently. It makes me start to wonder if when you go to a place, when enough people with that type of energy goes to the same place, do they draw in a spirit that perhaps died at a different place or had a trauma at a different place?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
To that place. For example, let's say in the Cecil Hotel, I'm just making this up because I don't know this for sure. I know for sure this has happened, but I don't know if this is the room where it happened.
We're using the Cecil Hotel as a framework for an hypothesis.
Right. No,
Right.
I know that.
Or an example.
Yeah, for example, let's say on the third floor, room 306 or something, it never happened that somebody hung themselves in that room. But enough people went to that room and felt a spirit that had hung themselves, talked to a spirit that had hung themselves,
Right.
experienced that, saw that, heard it, saw the shadow of it, but it never happened. In history, it never happened.
In that place, right.
In that physical place, in the physical history. But since so many people experience that, could it have been a spirit from somewhere else that because people were sensitive to it, brought it to that place? Because that place is so open to that type of energy.
So someplace nearby?
Nearby. Maybe that happened in a house nearby. Maybe that happened in a motel not far. Maybe that happened someplace else. But because the Cecil is so... so pivotal to that type of environment that it drew it there.
Right.
So that's why, aside from the stuff that's already there, it draws that in, and that's why it is so demonic in its energy.
Right. Yeah. And with all these serial killers, too, that have been there.
And that could be why it drew them in.
It could have drawn that. And you know what they say about what serial killers say? Everybody needs a hobby.
But it's sort of like a chicken and an egg type of thing. Did all these evil things happen because the building is evil, or did the evil things make the building evil?
Right, chicken or the egg.
Right,
Yeah.
and I honestly believe that that the building drew. This is my feeling.
Right.
That the building itself drew the bad things to
There's
it.
so many people that were down on life and experiencing all that negativity.
But even before that became a Skid Row, that hotel was part of the big fancy 1920s hotel.
That's true. That's
series,
very true.
And a lot of these big hotels that we're talking about, that's the time they were built. That is the big time that they were built. And that was just before Prohibition, and that was just before the gangsters took over,
And the Great Depression.
and the Great Depression. But it was at a time when life was free and everything was kind of hunky-dory.
The Roaring Twenties.
The Roaring Twenties.
Yes.
And all these hotels were big, and but of course the Cecil already had stuff happening right after it was built in 1909 or 1918. I think were some of the first ones.
If anybody out there has a story about a building or a hotel or a place that's haunted like this,
anyone who stayed at the Cecil, we'd
or
love
anyone,
to hear.
Yes, if anybody stayed at the
Or
Cecil,
the
Cecil,
Yeah.
please write us. Let us know what it was like.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I know we didn't go into every single little detail of every single little person every single person who had committed suicide or died there, because that's such common knowledge. We're more interested in some of the other stuff that goes on there, or other hotels that may have had huge hauntings around them. Yeah. Right now, they can't tell what sounds are rats and what sounds are ghosts, because right now, when you look at it, pictures of it that were in, I think ABC had pictures of it on a news program right now.
Yeah.
There is so much graffiti and so many vermin. And they said you have to be very careful walking through the halls, and because there's so many needles and so much other drug paraphernalia that it's very dangerous. Yeah, but
they have attempted to make it more cost affordable living at this point, right? They've
right
renovated
now,
parts of the hotel.
Right now, according to what I read, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, it is very, very low income housing, and they're trying to open it up to anyone who, is very, very, very down on their luck. And that includes a lot of people with drug problems that are trying to get over them.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to mention, too, that regarding the Elisa Lam story, if there's anybody who wants to see more information about it, there's a great Netflix documentary titled Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, and that's where you'll see all the little details of what happened to Elisa Lam.
Yeah, and is that Netflix you said?
Netflix.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Yeah. Oh, and I have to tell them about our new family member.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I've been bugging Paul for a kitten for a long time, but we can't have one because our dogs, we know from our children's kittens that our dogs just don't do well with kittens. So I got a bearded dragon and named it Kitten.
Yes, and if I had known how quiet and self-sustaining that dragon is ahead of time, I would have agreed for the Cobra Farm rather than all the other animals that run around terrorizing our household.
I didn't want the Cobra Farm.
You said milking them would make, for anti-venom, would have made a great living.
But I said you'd have to hold them.
Yeah, and that was the absolute no way. Snakes and I are just completely incongruous beings on this planet.
I said nothing venomous.
Yeah. Well,
I said you weren't going to be the only cold-blooded thing in the house.
Oh, thank you so much, my love. This is from my soul. My soulmate. Oh.
No, you're not cold-blooded.
No, I hope not.
No, just me.
Don't leave me in the cold, because I will stop moving. The one thing about growing up in Canada is we learn to dress warm. We're here in New England. Sometimes you see these brave young teenagers running around with no coat on, wearing shorts.
In the snow.
In the snow, just to be cool, I guess.
Purple legs up to the kneecaps.
Right. So, with purple legs and frozen kneecaps, we ask all of you, please, if you have a story of the paranormal or a true crime or a mystery, please email it to sendittospookycoop@gmail.com. We'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, we would.
Please like us. Please subscribe. It's how we grow the channel.
Yeah, and the bearded dragon's name is Kitten.
Yes.
So I did get my kitten after all.
Yeah. Compromises work, I guess, eh, dear?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right.
So, folks, until next time, we ask that you have a very safe and interesting and good and happy week.
Right? And if
With
you're
all
under
that's
all the
going-
snow, we hope that you get yourself warm and safe.
Yes, and for the people down south from us who are encountering floods, our hearts and prayers are with you. Please be safe. And we wish you a week of hope and wonder. Until next time, when we see you
In the